Macca's Guides.
Hey guys, Macca here. Welcome to Gears 5, all components and all collectibles for Act 3. I'd like to apologize for the timing of this video. I planned on having it up a lot earlier, but some real life stuff came up that I need to take care of. So nonetheless, we're here. There are 24 collectibles in Act 3, as well as 152 components, which is a lot, but most of them are picked up in stacks of 3 and sometimes 5, so there aren't actually 152 of these things to pick up as individual items. So make sure you're grabbing everything on the way. We'll grab all the collectibles, all the components. I'll tell you about the jack upgrades. Hopefully you grabbed the ones from the previous video. You should have probably grabbed them automatically, just doing all of the other stuff you needed to do anyways in order to grab all the components. So off of the beginning, you'll find one collectible on the desk, kind of directly near where you spawn. Then in the small side office room, you can find one component, go down to the lobby, and kind of behind the check-in desk, find another component. Then walk across to the luggage storage area to find your second collectible here. And we do have separate counters in the bottom right-hand corner, so you guys can keep track of everything in the pause menu for whenever you need it. Next to that previous collectible, next to the luggage area, walk in, and you'll have to send Jack in order to grab a stack of 3 components for you. And then at that point, what we can do is run to this back area. You'll see that it says exit and arrivals. Arrivals in gate 1, actually. And there's another exit to your left here. But if you run to the back room, there's 2 things we can grab in this back room here. One of them is a 3 stack of components on the fuse box wall as you enter. And then after you grab these, or send Jack to grab these, what you can do is basically just turn around in this area and find the Missive to Agent 9 collectible sitting on the desk near the corner. Next up, we'll go see Baird as part of our main objective. Before talking to him and figuring that out, go to the right-hand side to pick up this component next to this robot, which I believe is called a Guardian, but I'm not 100% sure. My Gears lore is definitely lacking. Let me know in the comments down below. But before you see Baird still, go to the opposite side of where we just were. There are a couple of containers next to some boxes as well, and I think on the ground here in the corner, you can find a stack of 3. And then you can go and talk to him and proceed to the next area of the mission. We now go to the other area in order to see Paddock, but before we talk to him and figure all that stuff out, there's a bunch of stuff we can grab here. So just hook around to your left from where we entered the area in order to find a singular component by itself. Then if you look at Paddock and go to his kind of right-hand side and go around behind the tent he's standing near, you can find a safe that you can get Jack to hack. Inside of the safe, I think all safes in the game, if they don't have an upgrade, I think they always have a stack of 5, which is pretty good. So grab that stack of 5. We're now at 18 out of 152. There's also a collectible here next to this tent that you can quickly grab. There's a small cut in the video of me picking it up here. And there are a couple more things we can grab, or just one more stack of components. So what we can do is basically start running towards the hangars that are nearby. And behind hangar 1, in between hangar 1 and 2, you can find a fuse box with a 3 stack of components. Make sure to grab those before you move on out of the area. We've then reached the tarmac, still in Chapter 1, and before we get on the skiff and kind of leave, you'll notice that there's 3 hangars. I believe these are marked 3, 4, and 5. And off to the middle one, just next to the plane to the left of it, find the Astounding Lightning Rangers. I think it's a comic book collectible. We've now basically started Act 3, Chapter 2, so I've reached the rocket hangar, and I'm participating in the main mission of the rocket hangar. There is no map available in the most part of this area, so keep that in mind. You'll climb a hill, and at the hill, you'll end up having a bunch of enemies run down at you. You'll take them out, and then you can hop over the right-hand window and look to the fuse box to your right in order to grab the components. Then work your way into the next door, which will technically start the actual mission with the on-screen prompt, but we were in the mission before this. Right as you start the mission, instead of going down the stairs and through the door, go across the stairs to the other balcony to find a singular component. You'll then reach a dark control room, and before the lights turn on and the door opens and you leave, make sure you grab the Hammer of Dawn command case from the body on the left-hand side, sitting against the wall.
Anyone gonna hit the lights? Can't see fuck all.
We've then reached just outside of the room we were in. You'll notice all of our teammates kind of ahead of us, waiting for us to catch up in order to grab a lift across the gap. But before we do that, what you'll want to do, you can come here later on in the mission, but I'd recommend just getting this out of the way right away. Go down the steps to your right, then take a left, and in this kind of back corner on some barrels, you can find a collectible, so make sure you grab that. And before you leave this area, there are also 2 components we can grab. So from those barrels, if you kind of turn around and go under the stairs we entered from, you can find a component fuse box on the wall. I'm going to quickly send Jack out to grab this one. Sometimes sending Jack can be faster than actually going there, and other times not so much. So it's up to you if you want to send him or if you just want to go up to it yourself. And then what we can do is kind of continue and go across in diagonally to the opposite corner of the area down here. And there's another fuse box we can kind of notice on the wall, and I'll send Jack to go grab this one as well. You can obviously run up to it if you so desire, though, instead. But he'll go and grab it on his own time if you want to send him out, too. You'll then eventually get on that elevator, and once it opens up, you'll notice this door with this kind of giant orange panel in front of you. That's where you're supposed to go. But instead of going through that door, make sure you go around to the left and follow the path all the way to the end in order to grab the components off the wall. There's a little bit of a path here that kind of takes you to nowhere, but we do have to come here if we want all the components. Keep in mind, we do only need 273 out of the 289 components. So if you miss a couple here and there, it's actually okay. You'll then reach this room, and as you enter, there will be a bunch of enemies. You can kind of drop down and cloak and take them all out, or just throw a well-placed frag grenade to kind of explode all of them. But before moving on to the path of the mission, which would have been to my left, I took a right-hand turn and headed up into this back corner room. At the end of this room, there's a table, and at the end of that table is a collectible. And we'll want to pick it up before we move on to the next area. And in the next area, what we'll see is there is a door in front of us, which is our main objective. Our objective is, I think, to reach the facility. Just above that door is a balcony, and we'll walk up to a collectible, or a component rather, and pick it up. It actually looks like you can send Jack to grab this one for you, but for some reason the game won't let you, which I thought was kind of an interesting tidbit. We then get to this section of the mission where we have to kind of hold back all of the Locust enemies in this room. There's a turret which you've probably used in order to kill everyone. And what we'll want to do is work our way to the back room on the right-hand side before or after Jack has hacked or welded his way kind of through that door. And there's a fuse box in the side room as well as some guns you can pick up. We've then exited back out into the kind of main silo area. I just went through a door, and this is the first thing I saw. Just to my right-hand side in the corner, there are some sandbags I want to mantle over in order to find a pretty well-hidden collectible, in my opinion, even though it's kind of in plain sight. We then reach this large open area, and the missile is supposed to be traveling kind of above us and through the giant hole in front of us. There's a tank downed just as we entered, so make sure you go up to this tank, find the UIR tag for Major Tolly or Tolly, not sure. And in this room before leaving, there's also a component stack we can grab. So basically just go to the far end of the area, kind of underneath the opening where the missile is supposed to travel through. You can hop over some sandbags and either get Jack to open this one for you or do it yourself since he takes way too long. Just after the previous set of collectibles and components, what we can do is we'll work our way down some stairs, and as we get to the bottom of the stairs, it kind of splits into 2 paths. First off, we'll go to the left and grab the collectible here. It's going to be sitting on the desk right in front of us kind of as we enter. And we're going to do kind of a little bit of a backtrack here just for simplicity's sake. So now we're going to turn around and go back to the stairs we were just at and go to the left instead of coming into the room. And at the end of this area, so basically down the steps and right in front of you, there would be a stack of 3 components. So make sure you grab these before moving on to the next area. We've then went down the long and narrow stretch of kind of level here, and there was a giant enemy we took out, and he exploded into bits. You can use the fire in the area in order to grab him. But as we exit that area, you'll notice the giant shaft lift to our left for that elevator. And what we can do is, as we come up the stairs, go directly in front of us, and you'll notice a fuse box here. Now, this next collectible technically counts as Chapter 3 in the in-game tracker, but I've put a little bit of an asterisk here because you are forced to come to this location as a part of Chapter 2. This is the turntable station that is located at the far end of the map, and we have to come here in order to interact with some controls. So once we've taken out all of the enemies, there is a room at the very end of the area. As you enter, there's a bunch of things you can do in this room. I would recommend that you don't send Jack to the control panel too quickly, as it will kind of boot you into a cutscene, which we want to avoid. But as you enter, in the opposite corner of where we came in from, there's a collectible. I will send Jack to the control panel. I don't recommend doing this, though, unless you want to come back later. But we're going to pick up the collectible right here off of the barrels. And then after we pick up this tag, what we can do is additionally in this room, we can find a fuse box for 3 components. We'll pick those up before finishing off Chapter 2 at the bridge control house. And then it'll start kind of Chapter 3 officially. So once Chapter 3 officially starts, we're going to kind of start back all the way at the abandoned airport. And we're going to work our way through the map in what I believe is the most logical sense. Now, here we are by 3 hangars just outside of the airport. These hangars aren't connected directly to the airport. They're just outside of them, like I previously said, and they're labeled 1, 2, and 3. On the 3rd hangar, between hangar 2 and 3, you can find a fuse box with 5 components. So make sure you go inside and grab those. There is another component pretty close to here. We're going to actually just grab the skiff and go straight to it. And what we'll do is kind of go perpendicularly away from the hangars. Hopefully that makes sense. You basically just drive away from them in like the most logical direction. Then you'll hit this fence. You want to follow the fence, and you'll notice that there is this kind of like command post or booth that would prevent you from going inside of the abandoned airport from this direction. And in here you can find a component on the ground before we leave. So what we're going to do now is hop back on the skiff, and we're going to actually go to another location. But once we get there, I will show you where we are on the map. So don't worry if you get a little bit lost. It's really not that far. You want to just head away from where we were and stick to the right-hand side. You'll notice that there are some cliffs and some fences along the edge of the map here. And what we can do is, as we reach the end of this fence, again, I'll show you on the map where we are exactly. You can find this car sitting kind of against the fence with a tree. And here we can find a component on the ground. We'll want to pick that up before moving on. Next up, we are at the pump station, which is one of the side missions on the map. It'll show up on your map as you approach it. So we're going to go into that side mission. We're going to take out all of the enemies and open the room at the very end. Inside of the room at the very end is the NOMAD'S sketchbook collectible. Additionally, in this area, there are a couple of components we'll need to grab, so we'll make sure to grab those before we leave the area and move on to a new one. So, as I said, you'll reach the top of the hill, you'll go inside of the office, and you will interact with the NOMAD'S sketchbook. After picking up the sketchbook, we're going to exit this office, and we're going to take the door out and go around to the back of this same building in order to find that fuse box around back with 3 components inside. I wonder how many times I've said fuse box in this video. It's probably close to 20 by now. Nonetheless, after grabbing that out of the fuse box, you can go up the elevator, or up the ladder rather, that is on the side of the building, and then run down the path, and you should see a component directly in front of you here. I already picked it up, and I wasn't able to like refilm it for some reason. It wouldn't respawn for me. So it's going to be right here next to the red toolbox. We've then moved on to this specific location on the map that there's really nothing at other than like a bridge, and we are basically under that bridge. So you'll use that as the landmark, but this bridge on the middle pillar has a, you guessed it, fuse box with 3 components inside. We'll make sure to grab those before moving on. From the previous collectible where the bridge was, we moved our way north towards the pump station, but not quite all the way to it. So that's where you see it off in the distance. And there is kind of a giant wall that protects the city not far from it. And here in the middle part of that wall, you can find a kind of smashed fence, and you can find a stack of 5 components as well before you get attacked by some leeches. Not far from where we just were, we're actually going to go to the pump station now. We're standing right out front of the gate for this side mission. What we're going to do is we're going to turn around, and directly behind us alongside of the wall, there are some crashed cars. Pick up the components here, and then directly after you pick these up, you want to run into the actual pump station. Sorry, drinking a coffee and it's got me a little burpy. So nonetheless, we're going to jump into the pump station now and basically go to the far end, go up the stairs, hook around, and this is another one that for some reason I picked up and it wouldn't I couldn't get it to respawn no matter what I tried, but it for some reason was tracking. So if for some reason you have something similar happen where there's a collectible or a component not showing up exactly where it's supposed to, it probably means you already have it and the game's just counting it separately, so you're good. Now what we've done is we've made our way to the rocket hangar, not far from where we kind of just were, and just out front of the start of the rocket hangar, just outside of it, to the right-hand side, next to some tanks, there is a UIR tag for the Fallen Loyalist, so make sure to pick up this one. This was actually my final collectible of my entire campaign, so this is where I personally unlocked my achievement for all collectibles, although you obviously have a few more to go. We've then worked our way just a little bit south of the rocket hangar. When I take the map away, I'm facing towards the rocket hangar. There is a big rock and kind of this singular piece of architecture out in the middle of the desert. And facing north towards the rocket hangar, you can find on one of the pillars or one of the beams a fuse box, of course, because why wouldn't you? 3 components inside, make sure you grab them before we move on. We then move down to this area of the map, not too far from the city ruins, but just a little bit left of it. And you'll see the city ruins directly in front of me here as I pull down the map. There are some walls built into the side of the cliff, and one of them allows you to go inside. On the left one of these 2, you can find some ammo as well as a component before being attacked. We've then made our way into the actual city ruins. We've gone through and opened the door, getting Jack to kind of hack it and fending off the enemy ambush here. But once we do that, there's a couple of things to grab. So we'll go through that door that was hacked and go to the right-hand side, and we'll pick up the UIRLC circuit. This is a collectible that you will need in order to get all the collectibles, but it also helps you towards unlocking a ultimate ability for Jack. So we're going to get all the ultimate abilities kind of along the way as long as we're grabbing all of these and working on all those side missions. Next to this circuit, you can also find the well-worn VASGARI flag. So we'll walk towards the exit and look behind you over your right-hand shoulder to find the flag that is hanging on the wall. This one's huge, probably the biggest collectible in the game if I had to guess. And before exiting, there is also a component we can grab. So turn around from that flag location and look to the right-hand side, to the left-hand side rather, as we kind of exit through these doors. And go to the fuse box, go inside, and we can now exit the level and get back on our skiff and ride around to the next areas. We've worked our way a little bit east here, and we are east of the harbor docks on a level just a little bit above them. You can kind of see them off here in the distance, and you can see that the pump station is kind of pumping, towards this area. And what we can do is on the lowest part of this, all these pumps, there's a wall, and on this wall, you can find a stack of 3 components. So make sure you grab those. We then end up inside of the Harbor Docks side mission as part of the water pumps, group of side missions. I've went ahead and I fixed the water pump and taken out care of all of the enemies. So you saw me facing the water pump from where we started, kind of directly behind us. There's a boat here, and sitting right here is a collectible. For some reason, it wouldn't spawn for me. 3 of them wouldn't spawn for me, but the game did count me as having them. So again, if that happens to you as well, don't worry about it. You should be good to go. Like I said, you are able to miss a total of 16 components and still grab all of the achievements. On the opposite side of where we were, you'll see that's where I'm sprinting now. There is the kind of front bit of a boat, it seems, or this might actually be the back half of a boat. I don't know. It's a piece of a boat, kind of like semicircular, and you'll pick up a component in here before moving on to the next area. We've then worked our way kind of south of the harbor docks. I'll show you exactly where on the map we are. So the harbor docks right above us, we've kind of worked our way down, not far from the cliffside. There's a group of tanks that are just kind of scattered into the sand. There's the bridge off in the distance. And next to one of these tanks, it's actually going to be the one closest to the harbor docks. You can find the Loyalist orders to Lieutenant MELICH sitting on the kind of side of the tank here. So we'll pick that up. Additionally, in this same area, there are some components. So you can go to the very middle of the area and find the components kind of dug into the sand next to this person. As you grab these, a bunch of enemies will attack you. So feel free to just hop on your skiff and leave if you don't want to fight them. We are now next to the bridge. I mean, it can't be more clear than that on the map. And just to the right-hand side of the bridge, if you were to, before crossing it from where we were previously, on the pillar there, you can find a pretty well-hidden stack of 5 components behind some bushes. We've then made our way to the Artillery Barrage Scavengers side mission, which is just across the bridge, just under it on the right-hand side as you are driving your skiff through the desert. It'll show up on your map as you approach it, and then we can enter it and take care of all the enemies, hack through the door, talk to who you need to talk to. And once you make your way inside, there's 3 things you'll want to grab. One is the UIRLC circuit here. This will be probably 2 out of 3 for you if you're following along with the video. So make sure you grab that. Additionally, in this room, on the kind of edge closest to the window, you can find the Emergency Loyalist Radiogram collectible. We'll want to grab that. We're at 19 out of 24 for the chapter now, by the way. And additionally, in this room, you can find a stack of 3 components in none other than a fuse box that we'll want to grab before leaving this area and then moving on. We're on our last set of scavenger side missions here. So this is the cargo shipwreck. The entrance to the cargo shipwreck is kind of all the way to my right-hand side. I'm at the very end of the ship to the left. And there is a guy in the ground here with a component next to him. We'll pick that up before going into the actual side mission. At this point, we are now ready to actually go into the cargo shipwreck side mission, located, not far from where we just were for the previous collectible, and pretty obviously available on your map if you've been looking around. So, into this shipwreck mission, I've taken care of all of the enemies inside of the container to the right-hand side, kind of along the edge. You'll go inside and find a captain's log collectible on the ground, so we'll make sure to pick that up for it to count towards our progress. And then what we can do is work our way towards the back of the mission here. And what we can do is grab some components sitting next to a set of stairs. So we'll grab those as well. And then at the top of the stairs, we can also find a circuit. This should be our final circuit, which will unlock the hijack detonator implant ultimate ability for Jack. Additionally, if you've done all of the water pump station side missions, you would have also unlocked the cloak ultimate ability called Slayer, which would mean that you have all of Jack's ultimates for Act 3. We then move on to the area where the crashed Condor is. So we are near the back of the Condor, kind of halfway through all of the wreckage, and inside of this part, which seems to be like the middle section of the plane, you can find a singular component sitting on a crate. As you pick it up, some enemies will attack you. We are going to completely ignore them for the purpose of this video. One of them stays alive and just kind of ends up there. Now we're going to work our way towards the actual like main crash. And as we work our way towards that area, you can see in this group of stuff, you can find a component sitting on the ground right here. So we'll pick that one up. And then we're going to keep working our way towards the crashed condor, but go behind it and not in front of it. And behind it, you can also find a singular component sitting on the ground, which we will also need to and want to pick up. So we'll do that before running all the way around to the front of the condor. So for collectibles number 110 to 114 of the components, rather, we can run all the way to the front of the condor, go inside of the side mission, take care of all of the enemies, work our way to the back where we can find a safe, get Jack to hack the safe, go inside the safe, and in there find a stack of 5 in order to continue.
Cleaned out this wreck.
Yeah, we should head back to the skiff. And man, I can't believe Baird's secretly a gun runner.
Wait, you're having trouble believing that Baird did something covert?
Yeah, well, when you put it that way.
Alright, at this point of the video, we're going to backtrack all the way to the cosmonaut training facility mission, which is a main part of Chapter 3. Before going up the hill towards it, as shown on the map, we're going to go to this kind of dead end where we can find a stack of 5 components sitting next to a bunch of metal junk. Alright, so next up we are actually heading into the cosmonaut training facility mission, and for the most part for the rest of this video, during this mission you will not have access to your map available, so realize that we are now going into the mission and starting it. So just as we enter the cosmonaut training facility, go to the left behind the tank to go to this big open area where you can really not find much other than a single component hanging out by itself on the right hand side.
We can all agree on that one.
We've then worked our way up the hill and have the actual mass of the cosmonaut training facility directly in front of us, so you'll see that pretty obviously here. And before entering it, what we want to do is go to the right hand side of the entrance, and there is a little bit of an open alcove type area. At the very end of this, we can find the LIGHTMASS missile fragment. We then do a little bit of back travel to where we just were standing, and we're going to go now inside of the cosmonaut training facility. And as soon as you enter this first building, hook around to your left, find a fuse box, open it up, and get your 3 components.
You could rope my ethnicity into the discussion again. Yeah, thanks for that.
We are now officially inside of the cosmonaut training facility mission, meaning we have absolutely no access to our map. Just as we start, we're going to work our way down this sandy path, down a hill, and to our left we can find a component sitting next to some junk and some rocks and some rebar and whatever. So we'll pick up the component by sending Jack to go grab it, and then what we can do is continue further, and what we'll get to do is slide down this hill and into a big open kind of lobby type area. As we enter, go to the left hand side, go through the metal detector scanner, and at the far end you can find a stack of 3 components sitting on the ground, which we'll pick up before moving on. We've then come through a door and had these automatic kind of metal shades open up so we could see through the window directly in front of us. On this path to the right hand side, as you hop over this piece of concrete, you can find a safe. As with all safes, a stack of 5 components awaits you inside. We then battle some enemies and work our way to kicking down this door as part of our main objective. As we enter, we're supposed to go to the left, but instead we're going to go to the right and find a bunch of like suits that people could wear. for, you know, cosmonaut training purposes. At the back of this room, components, 3 stack inside the fuse box. Where else would it be? We then end up outside, and we end up manipulating all the cranes in order to move the pieces so we can get kind of through the area. We lower a piece so that we can walk through it, and then we follow the path and drop down. As soon as we drop down, look to your right-hand side to see a door. Open that door, hook around to your left, and find 5 stack of components sitting just inside. We then end up kind of working our way through the body of debris, which I believe is a Condor crash. There's a bit of a dust storm, and I believe there's an enemy or 2 here as well. At the very end of this path, instead of going to the right-hand side, which is where you're supposed to go, keep to the left and pick up the stack of components on the ground before moving on. Then what we can do is we'll reach the centrifuge area. I've taken care of the centrifuge, I've killed all the enemies, the centrifuge has stopped on its own, and I now have the ability to go towards the beacon. There are a bunch of things we want to grab here, so you can get Jack to go towards the beacon so he can grab it and start doing his own thing. But on the opposite side of the beacon, right next to it, you can find a UIR tag for Captain Tagger. And then what we can do is we can move on, and as Jack's doing his thing, we'll go up the stairs, and instead of exiting the mission off to the right-hand side, we're going to sprint forward and into the back room here. So if you go through the door to your right-hand side, you should notice none other than the return of the fuse box on the wall. And inside of this one, we can actually find a stack of 5 instead of our normal stack of 3. So we'll pick that up. And then additionally, we can find another singular component by going through the door and looking to the right-hand side into this very dark corner of this hallway. You should see it glowing.
The rest of these beacons when you can. Delta, let's get back to the skiff.
Last but not least, we'll have the Nomad Convoy side mission, which will show up in the middle of the map after you've basically taken care of everything else available to you, and you've went back to the abandoned airport and gotten the ability for barrier. As you enter, to the right-hand side, sitting next to a tank in the corner, you can find the Fallen Nomad's Visor for collectible number 24 of 24 in Act 3. Additionally, you can find a component on the opposite side by sprinting through and finding it sitting next to a container at the very end of this area for 151 out of 151. Now, before you conclude this area, make sure that you have all of Jack's ultimate abilities other than barrier. You would have grabbed 4 automatically as you went through Act 2, and you would have grabbed 2 automatically as you went through this guide in Act 3. So you should now have 6 out of the 7 ultimates, and pretty much enough of the component upgrades in order to buy pretty much everything. We still need to get the barrier though, which I will talk about in Act 4. I'll see you guys in that video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the video was helpful. Special shout out to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.